what? After the Cajun Navy put out, after they put out that stuff on Facebook or wherever it was at, it was just like they didn't know what I knew from the DCS reports, but they're right. They're right when they say there's people in law enforcement that don't want my son found. Because their actions speak louder than their words. And, two birds flying over at me while I'm protesting the fact that they're not doing anything.
Yeah.
The Cajun Navy may be right about law enforcement personnel not wanting Sebastian found. That could be true. At this very moment, you did not name Summer County only. And I would personally have a tendency to agree with what you're stating. However, I do not believe that it is from the lower enlisted personnel only. I don't believe that any law enforcement agency wants to see Sebastian dead. And I don't know whether you're implying that or not. That's irrelevant to me. But I do agree with you on one aspect of that. I believe there are law enforcement agencies in Tennessee that do not want Sebastian found because they do not want his testimony to be heard. That's what I believe.
And there's so much false information. I mean, you know how many times I've had to, you know how many times I've attempted to correct people and yet they don't want to listen to what I'm saying. And if you don't want to listen to what I'm saying, at least I hope that you listen that my son's not found and that he's still missing.
Right.
Well, you've said it over and over too that, there's no sides. It's about Sebastian. It's Team Sebastian, Sebastian's Army. I mean, how many times can you just continue to reiterate the same thing? And it's
Teresa Chavez. Here's the thing about narratives. That it's only Sebastian's army. That it's only about the green team effort, like Brittany says. Okay? When you are speculating a narrative or stating a narrative that it's only one group of individuals, Sebastian's army, we're doing everything. You are excluding millions of Americans who may be willing to help because you constantly focus just on your group of individuals. By doing this, by putting this narrative out there, you are excluding, and you have excluded, the other parents because you have planted someone at every freaking gathering or vigil that they're not allowed to be associated with. So, here's a question for you. How can the other team members that are not part of Sebastian's army, how can they even support the purpose of coming together when certain individuals continuously make it impossible for the mother of Sebastian to attend anything because someone is rubbed in her face every freaking time? Mr. Rogers stated himself in this video, it was discussed earlier that Mr. and Mrs. Barisonks pulled into a parking spot. They made eye contact and they left. They chose to leave. Okay, let's have a clear understanding about one thing. Body language and eye contact is a nonverbal cue of body language. It speaks a language. You can look at someone and you can tell whether they're a threat by their look. You can tell by the way their posture is without them even saying a word. Now, many people believe, well, we have known Seth 2.5 years. But Mr. and Mrs. Barisonks have known Mr. Rogers longer. I don't know how much association they've had with each other, and I really don't care. But I do know this. They have more interaction with him than any of us have had. And they probably have had social gatherings with and without Sebastian. They probably have had prior conversation prior to Sebastian going missing. They know each other intimately. So, if the rhetoric is going to continue that the other parties involved who helped in the beginning, including law enforcement, TBI, and the FBI, because they were all on board in the beginning. It was a team effort. It's still a team effort, even though a lot of people do not believe that.
At my own son's backyard barbecue.
At least I hope that you...
The team effort by local law enforcement and the TBI and FBI has been there from the beginning. And I've stated this several times this past week. With all the negativity still going out to this day, 2 years and 6 months later, by various groups, by various individuals, they're not going to come out and state, hey, we're going to give the public anything. Because everyone's still bashing them. And no one seems to understand one important message or pattern. Everyone thinks, well, it just happened the weekend of February 24th. That weekend, all hell broke loose. That's a mistake. Because whatever led up, whatever any of you may believe, or what I believe, or what the police may believe, or what TBI may believe, or the FBI, or the DOJ, what anyone may believe, it didn't happen just in a 72-hour period. There were signs and there were patterns of behaviors before Sebastian went missing. But many people, they don't want to stop and ask those questions. And if they do want to put out those type of statements, they don't want to look at the whole situation. And sadly, after 2 years and 6 months, with only 136 days left until Sebastian reaches maturity, around that time frame, the damage has been done to his dignity, his self-respect, the lies that has been stated about his name, the persona that has been put out concerning his family's home life. His family's home life. Not Mr. Rogers' home life. Not Katie Proudfoot's home life. not Chris Proudfoot's home life, about Sebastian's home life. Because the three parents, when you're looking at Sebastian, they're irrelevant. They know what the patterns of behavior has been. The therapists know what the patterns of behaviors have been. But here's the major difference. The therapist that Sebastian started seeing when he was very young, 3.5 years, 5 years of age, in various
The moldy sandwich landed on Marcus Reynolds' first-class tray.
in various states.
If you don't want to listen to what
The therapist, the doctors, the psychiatrists, and the psychologists that Sebastian talked to from the onset, they heard and they saw behaviors from Sebastian. They heard what Sebastian said. They are trained in that field to have an understanding and connecting the dots for the patterns of behavior. And even the parents with the background knowledge and the history of their own lives combined with Sebastian's life, they do not know as much about the interpretation of why Sebastian may have felt a certain way, because they're looking at it with an emotional intent. Trained individuals, such as social workers, are guided to look at the patterns established within a family dynamic. Psychologists and psychiatrists look at the whole rim of the functional development of their patient, not just on the onset of the family's activities, behaviors, attitudes, characteristics, but at the welfare and the foundational growth and what needs to be explored to make that individual self-sufficient. And for 2.5 years, 2 years and 6 months, we have listened to various family members state doctrine narrative based upon their own personal reflections. According to HIPAA, we're never going to know the truth from all of the medical personnel that treated Sebastian. Sebastian's words from a medical professional directive is never going to be made fully to the public unless Sebastian states it himself. Because Sebastian, at the time that he disappeared, he was able to go in and talk to these professionals by himself. His medical records were protected. So when you're considering Sebastian's truth, not anyone else's truth, at least give him the respect and the dignity to know that he has a perspective. He has his own narrative. He has his own story. And guess what? It's not going to be the same as it was 2 years and 6 months ago. If he is out there, his story's not going to be the same. And one major reason, which is common sense, because he hasn't been around 3 individuals. He has not been made to live and those adults' decision-making drama that insisted on uprooting his life. So for 2 years and 6 months, Sebastian has been wherever he is, and he's not been pressured or had to live in a drama filled with, oh, your father's not as good as this, or your mother, she's done this to me. It's been about him and wherever he is and whatever he's doing. So to think that Sebastian's going to come back and he's going to step right back into synchrony with what was going on 2 years and 6 months ago, it's not going to happen. Perhaps, if Sebastian's found by a miracle, perhaps he will not be returned to anyone within his family. Who knows? Who knows who's been watching all this for 2 years and 6 months? Who knows who Sebastian himself may have spoken to? But there's one thing that everyone must understand. If you keep on doing lives, Mr. Rogers, I'm not really speaking to you at this moment. If you keep on doing lives as a creator, everyone needs to come together for the benefit of whatever. You cannot say one thing and live by the standards of another. You cannot straddle that fence. Because it's wrong to do that.
I'm saying, at least I hope that you listen, that my son's not found and that he's still missing.
Right. Well, you've said it over and over too that, there's no sides. It's about Sebastian. It's Team Sebastian, Sebastian's army. I mean, how many times can you just continue to reiterate the same thing? If it's not sinking in, then there's, well, Jenny Machete says it's sad and frustrating.
It is. Mandy wants to know, do we know if Chris was being honest about the dogs hitting by the dam like he told Nerdy Addict?
Say that again, Smiling. My bad.
That's okay. Do we know if Chris was being honest about the dogs hitting by the dam like he told Nerdy Addict?
If Chris was breathing, I'd check to make sure that he's actually breathing, okay?
Yeah.
I don't trust that man. And calling him a man is actually a disservice to actual men in the world.
So, you haven't heard anything about the dogs hitting over at the dam?
No.
Okay.
No, he wasn't alone when he left to go get his camper. That's right, Chris. I know you weren't alone. I know who was in the trunk. Now you gotta wonder who in your trunk actually talked to me.
Ooh.
And I'll tell you, it wasn't your mama. She was in your trunk too. And no, I don't know where your mother was Sunday. I asked about Monday morning. I'm really surprised you, Chris. Your best bet is to dig yourself a hole, cover it up with dog shit.
Isn't the dam is far away? Mr. E is saying the dam's far away and close to the rudder. So I thought it was like 7 miles away from the house. And to be barefoot and get all the way over there, it wouldn't.
Don't believe my son. my son, and their stories don't mix.
Right. I mean, none of it makes any sense, and that's why we're all like, wait a minute. And there's so much speculation on top of the fact that law enforcement isn't being transparent. They're not coming out and making public statements to allow for people to refer back to their statements. That's what really makes it difficult. And then to confuse the situation, I still don't understand why Chris would go to someone who's never covered Sebastian's case before and tell them that type of information. I'm confused about that as well, but. And then nobody would have saw him on camera, exactly, Mr. E. Yeah, no one would have, no. I mean, I think people would, I think people would see him on camera, but yet we don't have any evidence of that.
Yeah, there's no video proof that Sebastian ever left that neighborhood. And what people don't know, where my mind goes is there's no video evidence he ever left the neighborhood, then this means there's a possibility that he is still in that neighborhood. It makes sense. No video evidence of him leaving the neighborhood. Means he could still be in one of those houses in that neighborhood. But then we go one step further with, what has been told to us, which at this point in time, we got to think everything that comes from the cops is probably tainted too. But if there's no evidence he ever left the house, where's the evidence that he was in the house? If there was evidence that he was at the house, why didn't Sumner County give me the evidence that he was in the house as proof of life? Chris was so upset that I asked for proof of life. I'm sorry, somebody goes missing is the first thing I asked for. Proof of life. Where was the last place he was seen? And you wonder why you failed your psych test, Chris? You don't even know the first policy when it comes to law enforcement. Thank God that you are not in Albuquerque working on the police department there. Thank God you failed your psych exam. Yeah. Oh, right. If people don't realize that, Chris told me he failed his psych exam when he attempted to go and be part of the Albuquerque PD. Which he also told me he's got friends on the Albuquerque PD, and just remember that Nino lives in that area. So he has friends in law enforcement that like to do his little dirty work. I know things, Chris. And when I speak facts. There's no in my opinion on this shit. Excuse my language. Just aggravated.
Well, it is very aggravating, especially knowing everything. No, it's just not okay. And a lot of the things that have come out that have been said have been proven to be lies. On top of the fact that we're supposed to all apologize and eat humble pie. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Chris. Would you like some ranch on your humble pie? Because you can't have my ranch. I wouldn't give you ketchup from a McDonald's ketchup packet from 1980. I mean, yeah, I'm mad. Yeah, I'm aggravated. My kid's missing. People, I'm finding people aren't doing their job. If people aren't doing their job, what are they doing? Why was an assistant DA involved with my son and yet I was never notified? Why did my son go missing and Sumner County never called Davidson County and speak to my captain and let my captain know? Why did they keep me out of the loop on everything that was going on with my son?
I have a question for you, Mr. Rogers. If you and Sebastian were so close, as you lead everyone to believe, then why didn't Sebastian tell you about the CPS reports or the DPS reports? Why didn't Sebastian tell his beloved father about what was going on in his other home front? This is just a top of the line question. If you shared everything, then why didn't he trust you enough to tell you?
I think it was because they were covering their behinds because they knew that they were involved and they knew the family already, and it would have looked poorly on them because they didn't do anything since 2022, is my opinion. You know, reading over the filing and everything.
I think it's normal to be upset. I don't understand why, Katie didn't call you as his father herself. And I can understand why you're extremely upset. And that's just my opinion. It has nothing to do with my feelings towards her or anything else, but I can certainly understand why you're upset. You have every right to be, and I think you've been pretty calm through all this, but you do need to stay calm. And you need to remember that you're the only thing Sebastian's got, so you really need to stay calm and focus right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Simon.
Yeah, somebody just shot me another thing and said, Ellie never showed you digital evidence that maybe Sebastian was on his switch after 7 p.m. to 9, or he went to bed, or text, or called anyone before bed.
Nope. I want to know why law enforcement still has my son's switch. He didn't have an Nintendo account, so he had no access to speak to anybody, and he wasn't at my house when he went missing. I want to know why law enforcement didn't go in and take electronics from their house until I was literally went to go pick up the electronics that they were letting me have back from my house.
That is so strange. That is so strange. That they, it's almost like they treated your house like Sebastian went missing from your house, because they took several things from your house that you wouldn't expect. I mean, I guess take it from everywhere, but like a lot of people were asking about the cars being searched. Well, actually, I shouldn't say cars.
Many parents have to work, and they leave their older children by themselves. And a lot of times, older children, 15, 14, 16, 17-year-olds, are on digital equipment, whatever they have, while their parents work. When these parents are at work, trying to make a living to support their families and themselves, Their children are left at home by themselves from 8 to 16 hours a day. When a parent is working, he or she does not know all the time what their minor children are doing on Switches, Xboxes, any type of device, a computer, whatever. So, law enforcement having this type of equipment from anyone's home is a standard practice. Because law enforcement is aware of Sebastian being at both homes alone for certain periods of time. It's been stated by the parents. The parents have stated different type of hours, and it's a different home fronts. You have a single father, and you have a married couple. Totally different home fronts. But when you take in consideration that law enforcement is looking into all equipment, you have to have the understanding that when children are left by themselves and to themselves, and they have problems sleeping, they are going to be on digital equipment. And most likely they're going to find a way to go and use someone else's account to play or to get on the web. So is it nefarious that law enforcement, Sumner County, still has that switch? Not necessarily. Based upon the fact that Sebastian was a latchkey sometimes, taking care of himself. And that's what you have to understand. So, when you're looking at law enforcement, are they keeping things to be ugly towards one parent? No, they're not. And if they found something, they really don't owe any answers to the public, because the parents and the public, they're not the victim. The minor is the victim. And in this particular case, this narrative, it speaks of Sebastian Rogers. So when you're looking or you're accusing Sumner County or the FBI or the TDI of holding digital platforms or closing accounts or monitoring accounts or monitoring equipment, understand that they are also aware of how much time Sebastian spent by himself while his parents were working. They weren't out drinking, partying, doing inappropriate things. They were working, just like regular people do. A lot of people do that. But whether any of these law enforcement agencies found something, they don't have to tell the public, and they don't have to tell the parents. Because, let's all be truthful, this case surrounding Sebastian, it has turned into a circus. And there is so much back and forth and regurgitating of information, and many people don't believe a lot of things that are put out there, and it's rehashing of over and over and over again of non-factual and some factual information. And And why should anyone expect any agency, to come out and tell anyone anything when, as soon as they tell someone something, or they hypothetically say, hey, we have a good lead, people don't keep it to themselves. They go out and they blow the whole thing up. Oh, we gotta hit those streets of YouTube or X or Facebook. We gotta let the whole world know this is what law enforcement is doing. No, you don't. None of us are entitled to know anything. But we have to use common sense and understand their perspective. And their perspective is very sensible. Law enforcement is aware that Sebastian was left by himself for long periods of time. None of the parents, none of them, can actually state what Sebastian was doing when he was alone by himself on any device. They weren't there. And no matter what was set up for his protection, he is a smart young person. He's a young adult. He's smart. He could watch and understand how to manipulate a device or a platform to get onto an application on any device. And that's what we have to understand about law enforcement with devices. It's not out of hatred directed towards anyone. It's out of security and the promise that the victim should be protected above everyone else.
This truck being searched, Katie's SUV being searched, and then Katie's work van being searched. And I don't know if we have clarification on that or
I
not.
don't. I have no clarification because I don't know. I know that they didn't live through mine.
And they should, I mean, you know, they should have, because
Hey, I am 100% down for whatever you're gonna do. You can do it. You know, don't hold me separate from what you're doing with them. If you want to put me through everything that you're gonna put them through, so be it. You want to come in here with luminol? You want to luminol my truck? You want to bring dogs? I don't care. I want my son found.
absolutely. But here's the weird thing is that it doesn't seem like they investigated anything. Like if they didn't do it anywhere, that's also weird.
Discovery. I'm
Right.
praying for discovery.
Yeah, I think that's valid. I was asking if you saw the clothes from the Texas Roadhouse when you were at their house.
All that stuff was on the front porch outside in bags for law enforcement. That's where they had put it, so that they could have the dogs sniff it for scent. Tex, that's always a possibility. I don't know I don't know how their mind is working. I do know that when somebody was trying to serve me here for a lawsuit in Montgomery County, that Sumner County tried to get me to meet them at the border so they could give me paperwork, as they said. You can call me up on my phone because somebody is literally suing me civilly in another county, and you want to call me up and have me drive and meet you at the border of your county so you could give me paperwork for where I was being served in my own county. I mean, what kind of BS is that? I mean, the lawsuit had nothing to do with Sumner County. the fact is that, Fernando the Bull from Texas literally was doing whatever Chris wanted done. That's how a person in Texas was able to get Sumner County paperwork for me being served in Montgomery County for a civil lawsuit.
Yeah. That's it, again. It's just it almost doesn't seem like that could be real. We know it is, but it's just so unreal that it's like unfathomable, in my opinion.
Sebastian, if you're gonna see this, my phone number is still the same. Please call me. Please call me so I can come get you. Even if you don't want me to come get you, call me so I know that you're safe. Yeah.
Here's a question for you. If you did call me, would you spill it all over the internet? Would you make a big showdown about it? Or would you just keep it to yourself and law enforcement? That's the question. Would you allow the other two or his mother to know? Or does the cycle continue again? That's the question. If Sebastian came back, what are your expectations for him, Mr. Rogers? If he said no, I don't want to meet any of these people, I don't want to go on your show, I don't want to discuss anything with you about anything, because I never discussed anything with you before about my life, or you would have known what was going on. Tell us in a live, Mr. Rogers, what your expectations for Sebastian is if he returns. Is he going to be played as an item for the public, to be a showcase item? Or is he going to be allowed to say, hey, I don't want to participate in that circus that was created by everyone. I just want to have people around me that I can trust. And if he looked at you and he stated to you, you had no trust in the beginning. I never shared with you my life experiences before I went missing. I need you to change. And that was stated just between you and him. No one else. None of your associates, none of your friends, none of your team members. Could you work with Sebastian? Could you accept the fact that he said, hey, Dad, you need to change? You need to earn my trust. You didn't have it before I left, but I forgive you. I give you one more chance. Would you do it, Mr. Rogers? Would you look at your son in his brown eyes and say, yes, son, I love you that much. Yes, we can start over. Would you allow him to make decisions concerning his life and not force him or not question him when he makes a decision, but to guide him? Would you be able to look at Sebastian in all honesty And when he told you, I still love my mother. She's my mother. Can you humble yourself to keep in all the anger and hatred that you have towards that woman? And love. Can you hold all that in and look at your son and embrace him with a hug and say, yes, I will try to respect your mother because she is your mother, and I would never want to become between you and your mother. Is Sebastian's life and the harmony of a young adult who needs guidance because he doesn't have enough schematic background knowledge about everything that he's going to encompass in his lifetime? He needs guidance. Would you be able to back up, regroup, and not put Sebastian as an exhibit on social media platform? Not stating that you wouldn't participate. Not stating that you wouldn't owe maybe your followers or subscribers or associates or whatever, because a lot of people prayed for you and Sebastian. And I have a feeling that they would like to have updates periodically if Sebastian were to come back. They would like to have updates about how good he's doing. But would you guarantee Sebastian that you would never require him to be played a fool on social media platforms? Would you guarantee Sebastian that he would not be put as a line item or an exhibit on anyone's social media platform? Would you guarantee him that? Would you guarantee him that you would allow him to explore his own medical therapy, medical doctors, and that he could have privacy with them and not be overbearing with what he did not want to share with anyone? Would you allow him that privacy? These are some real questions. Because see, if Sebastian were to come back, because there's no doubt in my mind that Sebastian doesn't love you and his mother, and Chris. But the understanding would have to be Sebastian would need guidance from the adults in his life. Sebastian would be owed privacy for his life. What he can gather up from what's been exposed about him from everyone. And I would ask the same thing from Katie. Katie Proudfoot, would you be able to look at your son, honestly look at him, and state, yes, I will not say anything negative about your father. He is your father. He cares for you. He loves you. Would you be able to do that, Katie? For the sake of your child. See, as parents, we all know one thing. And the thing that we all know is that our children usually outlive us. They are a gift from God. And I believe both Katie and Seth understand this concept. It is their responsibility to have given Sebastian the skills to be a productive member of society. I'm going to keep my opinion here out of this. because I do have my opinions. But I believe both parents know that. However, some skills take humbleness from both parents for the love of the child. The parents are unimportant when it comes to the understanding the child was their gift. He was not, and is not, and should never be used as an instrument of dreadlock between the parents. Because the ultimate one to become a victim for every type of neglect, abuse, mental and emotional and physical, will be the child. And when you live between two homes, the child would have confusion. And if there are no adults listening to the patterns of behavior that started long ago, not just in a week, long ago, that child's emotional anger and questions are going to go inward. And perhaps someone like that may consider, well, I need peace. And perhaps he told someone, not an adult, another minor. And that minor, perhaps is a street smart minor, had more experience at life lessons than Sebastian did. And they came up with a plan. Just speculation. But the question still exists. Would everyone accept if Sebastian was returned by the grace of God? Would they allow him his privacy? That is the question. And would you give him the respect that he deserves as the victim only? That ends the recording, the narrative that I did after Seth Rogers' live was completed. Those are some real questions to consider. The main question to consider is Sebastian never shared with his father what was happening on the home front. Sebastian lived between two home fronts. All parents worked. Sebastian himself was the medium or the midline of the frustration of all adults involved in the situation. Whether the parents, guardians, or extended family members meant to put everything on a minor who had very little knowledge about life in general. Sebastian had a very predictable, safe daily life. At the time that he went missing, one may speculate that Sebastian did not have a lot of street smarts because he had never been exposed to experiences that would allow him to acquire this type of skill sets. However, Many people keep on thinking, well, it's been 2 years and almost 6 months since Sebastian went missing. He's going to walk straight back into where he was. And that's not reality. Because he's not. If Sebastian were to walk back in to those adult lives, his father, his mother, and his stepfather, if he were to walk back into that scenario, he's not going to be the same person. Because wherever Sebastian is, and whatever has transformed in his life, he's acquired new skill sets. Life lessons, knowledge. And it's going to have changed him. And his perspective may not be what it was before he left. Guarantee you it won't be. It never is. And his expectation for his own life is probably a higher priority now than pleasing Mr. Rogers or Chris or Katie. And that's the way it should be. Because Sebastian's almost of a maturity level. Does he have all the skills to be successful and a productive member of society? I believe he does. But I do not believe that going back into a situation where 3 prominent individuals who love him, I do believe they all 3 love Sebastian, but they're so focused up on their dislike of one another that they threw the main bond or connection between all 3 of them out of the center of who was supposed to be protected. Because let's be real. Sebastian really didn't talk to any of the 3 about what was going on in either of their homes. He didn't tell Mr. Rogers about what was going on in his other home. And he definitely did not share a lot of things that were happening in Montgomery County with his mother, who lives in Hendersonville or Sumner County. So Sebastian didn't trust any of the 3, or he would have shared it. And it's been spoken many times that Sebastian did have friends. And who are we to say that Sebastian was not entitled to share his personal thoughts and narratives with a friend? If no one else was being seen as a person of trust, then he may have reached out to someone that he trusted. But the question still is out there. If he returned, if there was mercy shown, are you going to give him privacy? Not stating that updates cannot be given about his life to the public. But if he required you to change, all 3 of you, would you meet him in the middle? Would you meet him and say, yes, we're so happy to have you back. We love you. We are willing to meet you in the middle. We are sorry. We are adult enough, we are humble enough to know that we did wrong also. we will take that responsibility. Are you willing to do that? Can you put aside that dislike for each other? Can you put aside that hatred for each other? Can you look at Sebastian and honestly state, you matter, you are that worthwhile that we will change our lives. We will learn new behaviors. We will learn new attitudes. We will learn and acquire new characteristics. And we will guide you. We will not demand from you anything, but we will work with you. Would you allow Sebastian to have a life coach of his choosing? Not of anyone else's choosing. Would you allow him to have a life coach that he could have for his personal directive in doing daily tasks, having a bonding experience? These are questions that people need to consider before Sebastian even comes back into the situation. Because these are important questions. When someone disappears, there's always a reason. And it doesn't happen. The reason for leaving is not immediate. It's not something that happens within a week, 72 hours, 42 hours, 24 hours. It's something that has been going on for a very long time. And the individual comes to the point where they are going to do something, because that's the only way that they can get on with life. That is the only option that is reflective for them to stay alive. That's my view about things. None of the parents are the victims. The law enforcement have kept the devices, are monitoring all platforms and all channels for information. And they owe no one nothing but Sebastian. That's it. It's not just Sebastian's case, it's in every case. And the narrative that Mr. Rogers put out there about the bull from Texas, that comment does not deserve a response. But the same mistake will not be made again, I guarantee you. And in my opinion, because you and I both know who you're talking about, when an individual hides from the sheriff's department from being served a summons about a court case, then why are you hiding? Why were you running in the first place? So, that is my response to you concerning that. There's always a reason why people run and hide when a slip of paper is trying to be delivered, because that is what is required of the law. And it will happen again. You don't run from something unless if you have something to hide. And I guarantee you that an old woman like myself does not need a narrative from any young Bronco to direct me anyway. I'm able to do it myself. You all have a nice morning, because it's we've been on here 1 hour and 5 minutes and 22 seconds. Thank you for joining me in this little narrative. And I'm sorry that there are 7 words in this video which are not necessarily pronounced correctly, but that is due to my disability. And I know that 2 creators are going to already say something about that. It doesn't bother me. It just shows their ignorance in the way that they perceive people with disabilities. And that's just, that's just the way it is. But honestly, folks, if he didn't speak to anyone that was in his central life, his center family, he didn't share it with his father. He didn't share it with Katie. He didn't share it with Chris. There was no trust there to begin with. If anyone loves you, if they respect you, if there is a bond of trust, they're going to reach out to you. And as adults, it is our responsibility to make sure that our children feel comfortable coming to us. Often parents, they have a hard time keeping their mouths closed because that's their child. They want to, if your child is telling you something and they're looking at you, but they've asked you to be quiet and humble yourself and sit there and say nothing, that is so hard for a parent to do. But often, when children have not been guided to share their personal thoughts, their reflections, their life experiences, if they have not been taught that, because the adults have demanded particular types of behavior from their children, then these children lack the inner structure of making decisions that are reflective upon their own foundation of trust. And that's where a lot of parents fail their children. It's a trust issue. It has to be taught. It is not always naturally there. Because, as everyone knows who are parents, there's no guided philosophy to be a parent. Only that you have to protect your child and love them. But you should also have compassion and respect for that child. Even out of sight, out of mind, you still should respect the child. The child should always be first and not be sacrificed under any circumstances. Even if you have hatred to someone else, or dislike, you should never sacrifice your child. You should have enough respect for that child to step aside and deal with the other adult to adult, not to include the child, unless, of course, the child is the adult. And then sometimes you have to be careful, because when a child becomes an adult and they're your adult child, they may have children of their own. And a spouse or a girlfriend or a live-in partner, you have to be respectful of the whole totality of the family. No one should be sacrificed to make someone else look better. But sincerely, the question still stands. If he comes back, are you going to respect him? Or is it going to be like it was before? Trust is earned. It is not just given. Have a good evening, everyone, or a good morning. Bye-bye. Thanks for listening.